We're going to start with a motion. I need a motion to approve the agenda.
Moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, so that passes. Next, I need a motion to approve Board of Education meeting minutes for February 20th, 2020.
Moved.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, that passes. All right, next we'll move on to Superintendent Board comments. So we're going to start with our Superintendent tonight, Dr. Mark Miles.
Thank you, Mrs. Mondel. So a few announcements this evening. Last week, Amy Weir, Supervisor of Wellness and Health Services, and I sent a message to all of our district parents outlining the important resources to consult as we follow the news and remain prepared to handle any impact of the spread of coronavirus and that impact upon our community. While there have been no confirmed cases of the virus in the state, it is important that we remain vigilant as we work with other school districts and public health agencies from across the state to address this dynamic health issue. The health and well-being of our students and staff are top priorities in Rockwood, and we appreciate everyone's support as we work together to keep members of our Rockwood community safe and healthy. A few of us had an opportunity to meet with public health officials and superintendents a couple of days ago. One of the most important phrases used during the conversation is that we're really dealing with two things: infectious disease and human psychology. And based upon some media reports, I would assert sometimes human psychology may have a greater impact. We are certainly preparing and want to keep all of our students and staff safe, as well as our entire community. So we will continue to share resources from the CDC and other public health agencies to maintain the health of our entire community. Secondly, the Rose Award Prize Patrol made its way to all four quadrants throughout the day on Wednesday, surprising this year's 15 Rose Award winners with balloons, roses, and warm congratulations for earning one of Rockwood School District's highest honors. The Rose Award highlights those Rockwood staff members, parents, and community members who exhibit excellence of character, leadership, performance, and extraordinary service to our district, our schools, and our students. Congratulations to this year's Rose Award winners. Do we have any in the audience? I don't know. I'm just asking if we have any in the audience. Congratulations to all of our Rose Award winners. We are indebted to you for the hard work and care you put into your roles here in Rockwood. So they are all very, very deserving. In that same spirit of acknowledging outstanding staff members, our elementary, middle, and high schools, as well as early childhood and the Center for Creative Learning, recently named the 31 Teachers of the Year for the 2019-2020 school year. From veteran teachers to those who are early in their careers, from grade level teachers to school level librarians and reading specialists to subject matter experts, including hard science to guitar performance, we are proud of the quality, dedication, and innovation that teachers exhibit all around Rockwood. We're now in the process of selecting our elementary, middle, and high school Teachers of the Year, and the district winner will be honored at the Rose Award ceremony on May 3rd, along with the Rose and Cornerstone winners, service awardees, and retirees. Staff members at Rockwood Middle and High Schools are learning new ways to approach struggling students by working with Alive and Well Communities, a nonprofit organization devoted to addressing and educating about the impact of stress and trauma in communities. Lafayette High School was the first school to send a cohort through the program in the spring of 2018. Since then, Rockwood Summit and Eureka High Schools have followed. Wildwood Middle School's first cohort started its four-part, four-month process last week, and Rockwood Valley Middle School plans to start later this semester. The goal is to train all staff members at our 10 middle and high schools in trauma-informed care. We're eager to expand upon this important training and give our educators another tool when it comes to supporting our children. And finally this evening, tomorrow is Rockwood Reading Day, and to celebrate, these Lafayette High School students are showing off their stack of books that they've read this school year and explaining why reading provides them with such great joy.
It's not even a question. It's almost his next. It's like my favorite book ever because, like, the mystery
edge of your seat super good. Like you're just like, oh my gosh, like what's next? Like what? And like one part you're just like, huh? You're like, it's like a roller coaster. It's like really good.
As reading enrichment teachers, we really encourage our kids to just find the joy in reading.
Ever since I was little, I've read all the time.
I don't know. I like a lot of books. I would read a lot of books.
I like poetry, so that's what I read the most.
I think when kids say that they don't like to read, it's because they haven't found something that they do like to read. They really just need the opportunity to choose and get the stuff that they like. And once they do find things that they like, they become those voracious readers because they can't get enough of it.
I'm reading The Sun Is Also a Star. It's pretty interesting. It has a lot of detail, and it has a really good message in it as well. There's actually a movie on it, and I haven't watched it yet because I'm trying to read the book first and then watch the movie.
Kettle and Gallagher started this program where they would have kids take pictures of the books that they read the year before, and then when they introduced this idea of book love, of just getting kids to fall back in love with reading, then creating their stacks the next year, and they saw that they were doubling, tripling in size. And we've really tried to embrace that because a lot of times our adolescents start getting overwhelmed with after-school activities or other things, and then they're forced to read books that they might not really like. We've heard from a lot of students who talk about the types of books that they like. We had one kid talk about mystery and another one talk about romance. Well, when you teach a whole class novel, you get what you get, and so you don't get to expose kids to find those pieces that they actually love, and it makes them want to go and get another one or the second version, or stay within a series, or really look at an author, and this gives them that opportunity.
That is all I have.
Very good. Thank you, Dr. Miles. Any board comments?
So I had the opportunity to go to Utah Valley and read on Monday, and they always do a spectacular job, but it's such a delight to see from kindergarten through fourth grade just loving books. The sheer pleasure of just reading to them and having them enjoy the books and talk about them and their excitement. So it's a great time of the year.
That was fun. I was there on Tuesday, Wednesday.
Was there on
as
Monday?
well. Good. Excellent.
Went to Lafayette last week for the spring orchestra concert where they had the Lafayette High School orchestras. They invited orchestras from Pabler Valley, Rockwood Valley, and there's I forgot the other one, Pond maybe. And they did a nice show. They did a 6:30 to 7:30 show, and then he did a second show from 7:30 to 8:30 where they got all the groups going, and it's just amazing to watch these students and perform. If you get a chance, go to one of these quadrant orchestra concerts. They're really great.
Comments? All right, moving on. I need a motion to approve the consent agenda items as submitted.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Dr. Kinder?
There are two donations. First one, Pond PTO, other non-monetary, $1,987.95 for an ice maker. Purchase of an ice maker to be available for the staff. Rockwood Summit High School PTO, monetary, $11,700 to support staff and students at Summit High School. That's through the Renaissance, allocated through the Renaissance Fund, etc. You can read about it on the right. Excellent donations again. Thank you very much.
Good. Anything else? All right, so the motion was to approve the consent agenda items as submitted. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, that passes. All right, next we have agenda items. We have a whole bunch of curriculum tonight. Great. Love it. First one is a motion to postpone approval of the 8th grade Cyber Innovations courses curriculum as presented until the April 2nd, 2020 board meeting.
Moved.
Motion and a second. So Dr. Shelley Willott, which I imagine you're going to be here for most of the night.
I am.
And Brian Reed, welcome.
Thank you.
Tonight is Curriculum Palooza, so we're going to start with, Brian is going to introduce a new middle school elective course that we have, and it's pretty exciting. I think we've gotten pretty good enrollment.
The numbers are looking really good. So we have a new course called Cyber Innovations. It's yet another STEM, coding computer class that we can offer at the middle school level. It is a non-PLTW track. So for those kids, I've heard that some of them find the PLTW track to be a little intimidating at times, and so we're trying to find alternate ways for them to stay within the family of coding. And so up came Cyber Innovations. And so, a little background, again, we're trying to support those skills that are highly needed by employers and post-secondary institutions and whatnot. And so looking at the current job market, there's still hundreds of thousands of jobs that go unfilled with these particular skills. And so we're trying to, again, support that push. And so I'm going to skip forward a little bit. You can always go back, of course, and look at the actual stats if you're a stats person. In terms of the skills that this class supports as well, again, those are the top sort of 10 skills by 2030 that employers and companies and things are looking for. And so what I thought was kind of cool was some of the lists on there, like problem solving and creativity and leadership. Those have been high demanded skills for quite a while, but now they're including things like emotional intelligence and cultural awareness and things like that. And so we're really striving to pull in a lot of those skills that are intertwined with the content that is done through the coding and through the computer science. And so I wanted to point those out because that is a little bit of a shift as we move forward. So there are new standards that were released back in 2019 at the state level. We have a couple of Rockwood employees. I know Bob Deneau and Glenn Hancock were on that committee to help sort of formulate those standards, which is fantastic. Again, you could always click on the performance standards and see them in person if you wish. But I'm going to go ahead and skip to the actual sort of design of the class, if that's okay. So I know I'm on unlimited time. So I'm clicking next, by the way, but I'm not seeing the next slide. So there we go. Thank you. If you wouldn't mind maybe pulling up the year at a glance for us, Deb, that'd be awesome. And so this is a semester course, and you'll see in the year at a glance that we'll have 3 major units, and they progressively get a little longer as we continue through the course. It's all about, though, sort of building the foundations at the beginning of the class, just in case they don't have as much computer or coding experience. So, coming into this class, technically you wouldn't have to have any experience. I mean, it's preferred, but not necessary. So we spend the first couple of weeks just kind of laying those foundations. Then we move into the physical computing, right? And so there's a whole 6 or 7 week curriculum that deals with the physical computing piece. And I'm happy to have Deb pull those up if you guys would like to see them as well. And or not, that's okay too. And I do want to pull up the last one though, if you don't mind, Deb. And so the Python programming. Python is a coding language that is gaining in popularity. It's becoming an industry standard. We've even started implementing Python in some of our high school courses as we're revamping those. And so seeing as that is a up-and-coming programming language, along, of course, with block coding and everything else, we wanted to really hone in on what that could look like at the middle school level to prepare them for those experiences they're going to have, especially at the high school and beyond. And so, when you look at the learner outcomes and what we're evaluating in terms of the Icann statements, yes, it's using Python language, but again, we're supporting all of those other essential skills that I just alluded to a few slides ago. What's cool about this course, and I know a lot of the kids are excited, as a project, as a culminating project to this course, since there's not a final exam, it's more about the capstone kinds of things, they're going to be able to code with Raspberry Pi, which that in of itself is a brand new sort of technology that's really infiltrating the education system, which is really cool. They're going to be coding whoopee cushions, burping jelly babies, little quiz bowl buzzers. They're going to be able to code a digital music box and this kind of cool stuff where they get in and really get in and do something they're interested in. They get to choose to create this product, but also, again, hone in on those collaboration skills and all that good stuff. So I just wanted to pull those up just so you can see sort of what it is that we're looking at assessing. And as we go through the course, obviously being a new course, we're going to have this as a very fluid document and make changes as we need. And so the last thing that I'd like to talk about with the next slide, if we don't mind, Deb, is sort of and there's your burping jelly babies and whoopee cushions and magic 8 balls.
We may be coming back to visit that after the principals talk to us.
Oh, yes. Next time I'm here, I'll bring samples as well. That'll be fun. But sort of a team approach of how we're even presenting this class. And this is a model that some of the teachers have been practicing sort of independently, but I really felt like it was a strong necessity to bring all of the teachers on the same page. And so those three sort of components are going to make up the core of the teaching strategies that we're going to be using in this course. So the paired programming, the Ask Three Before Me, and of course student choice. So
Where does this fall in the 8th grade curriculum? It's not a core course, it's a, what's the other terminology for it?
you could use the word elective, I guess, at that point.
Encore.
Or encore.
Encore, this is an encore course, and it's a semester course.
It is.
Now do you have other courses, is that right?
We do. We have 3 other courses.
Are they following, this is the first course, you have to do this before you do anything else?
No, none of them are sequential. That way it opens the door for them to be able to take it whenever it might fit into their schedule. This one being specifically 8th grade, that takes away the need to have the app and game development course, which is currently 7th and 8th grade. So more kids will probably take that in 7th grade and maybe take this in 8th grade.
What do they follow up with this at high school?
So in the high school, they're going to have a whole gamut of choices at that point, whether they go into Java or intro to programming or things like
Okay.
that. Python is being sort of sprinkled now through some of the courses at the high school level on purpose as well. So it's not a complete redesign, but we're pulling in elements to support that shift.
But thank you.
Sure.
I had 2 questions.
Sure.
One, and Shelley, this is really toward all of the curriculum. I noticed the standards aren't listed in the curriculum document. Is that intentional?
They're in the units, the individual units. So that overview of what you see is just an overview glance, but once they get into each unit, all those standards are called out.
Are called out
Yeah.
specifically, because I tried to go through and looked for those. And the second thing is, I know your proficiencies are not active.
Not active.
The
Proficiency
proficiencies
scales.
buttons are not, they're not there yet? Is that?
Deb, do you mind if we pull back one of those? We actually included the proficiency scales in the document down below at the very bottom.
Okay, so they're, okay.
So they're embedded inside that same document, so it's a one-stop shop.
Gotcha. Instead
Yeah.
of clicking over to the proficiencies, okay.
Yeah, because the links won't be active for you
All
guys
right, I just wanted
necessarily.
to make sure I was understanding them. Thank you.
Yeah.
Like slides go, is that what you're talking about?
I'm sorry?
Maybe I'm in the wrong spot. I just clicked on one of those. You're talking about your very last slide?
It's like the third to last slide. It has like the little hexagonal patterns.
Oh, gotcha.
It's also
Okay.
in the speaker notes where you can find the direct links. And you'll notice too that there are a bunch of standards that we've incorporated, but we're not formally assessing, right? And so we're sort of tracking, but not formally, which I think is good too, so we can see where those kids are going. And I will say this too, that the plan is to also have the teachers at the 8th grade level communicate with the high school teachers as those kids come in to see where those skills are, and so the kids don't have to start over, and they can get some more enriched guidance on maybe which courses would be viable for them. So
Of other districts in the state that are doing this, that you know of?
this course,
No, this type of learning.
yeah, I would say quite a few of the schools have a variety of computer science and STEM type coding courses. A lot of us.
Even in middle school?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
A lot of them do a lot of Project Lead the Way stuff as well, but this one being a non-Project Lead the Way isn't quite the norm. I would say a lot of the coding classes at the middle school level are a more, PLTW type track of program, and so, it's kind of nice to offer some non-PLTW options as well.
Right.
Sure. Other thoughts, questions? You are more than welcome to take the course as well if you want to code a whoopee cushion or a magic 8 box.
I was going to ask that question, actually.
Yeah, we would love to have you all in. That'd be great.
All right, any other questions or comments? All right, so that motion is to postpone approval of the 8th grade Cyber Innovations courses curriculum until the April 2nd, 2020 board meeting. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, that passes. Thank you.
Julie, thanks for having me.
All right, second one.
Stop.
Motion to postpone approval of the Family and Consumer Science FACS courses curriculum as presented until the April 2nd, 2020 board meeting.
Second?
Motion is second, and Shelley's back, and Dr. Paige Carlson, hello.
So I think this is the last of Paige's classes before she is finished with the rewrite. So she has family relations and housing and interior design.
Yes, okay. So this is the third year progression of our revision process. So in previous years of rewrites, we would write all 14 courses at one time. So this is the fewest number we've had. So last year I came with 14 courses, and this time I have 2. So this is just an easy revision that we've had. To begin this process, we had an entire Cte evaluation where we looked at all of our Cte programs. So we looked at business, computer science, we looked at family consumer science. And then we also, for family and consumer science, had a consultant that came in, looked at our courses, worked with our teachers, looked across the nation what courses that we should have. So our consultant was Susan Turgeson. She also helped write the national standards for family consumer science. So as those standards were revised and rolled out, she really broke down each standard with the teacher. Teachers talked about each standards. Because we have such broad standards in so many different courses, there was a lot of training that we had in terms of the standards. And then we also went on teacher field trips, and we continue to do that. Training, so we had trainings that came in prior to even our revision process, just to make sure that we knew what we were writing and current trends, and then also research where we looked at other school districts across the country to see what family consumer science programs they had. So this is the career pathways that we have in family consumer science. So we have culinary and hospitality, child development, personal and professional, and fashion apparel. So in this coursework that we have for Rockwood, family relations, as you can see under the child development pathway, and then also the fashion apparel, housing and interior design are the 2 courses that are 2 final courses that we are revising. Okay, so the 2 courses, housing interior. Housing is for 10th, 11th, and 12th grade. This is an existing course that we've had. We just revised the standards to the updated standards. It's a semester course. It's a CTE credit, and there's not a prerequisite for that. For family relations, that's 11th and 12th grade course. Semester, it's half a credit. The credit would be a career and technical education, CTE, and there's also not a prereq for that course. And so this also is an existing course that we've had. We just revised the standards and updated the course. So our writing committees, which are just a big part, like I've mentioned, the trainings, the research that we have all done, they're a huge part of this writing process. So I wanted to acknowledge our writing teams for housing, as you can see there on the left, and then family on the right. This is a big commitment that they undertake to revise these courses, and then that will continue to do additional training and work on activities and lessons. So those are our writing committees. Our next steps, we'll continue with assessment plans, and we do have a life after high school and fashion merchandising that we will be our final 2 courses that we revise.
All those courses up there, which 1 or 2 courses has the largest enrollment?
Foods courses, foods sections are two just really our foods is the largest.
Culinary arts, are those fairly new?
They're not necessarily new, but I would say sometimes many of our schools they don't make. So typically our food fundamentals, regional food, baking and pastry, food science. Some of our larger schools will be able to carry culinary arts, but not all schools will carry that each year. Yeah. It is surprising, but there's so many options for them. So we have a lot of food courses. So we will, typically culinary arts will run, but only about 1 school will both run. But we have very large courses, our food fundamentals courses, and baking and pastry world, and our regional world is large.
You don't offer all these courses every semester. Do they rotate by semester, or maybe not even every year?
It depends. I mean, I would say some of our food science is usually 1 semester, but all of our other food courses will run 1st semester and 2nd semester. Same with child development, same family relations. Family relations, the school will usually pick 1 semester, but
Thank you.
Welcome.
The motion is to postpone approval of the Family and Consumer Science courses until the April 2nd board meeting. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, that passes. Thank you.
Would you like an update on the score?
Yes, what's the score?
Summit was up by 5 points with 2 minutes left. Summit was up by 8 points with 30 seconds left. Summit wins. So I asked the principal what the score was. Her response was, "I got too excited, forgot to look." She thinks it was 54 to 46.
Yeah,
But Summit
right.
won.
Way to go, Summit. SUM. All right. Here we go.
MIT.
There you go. All right. Thank you, Dr. Kinder. Next, we need a motion to postpone approval of the high school physical education courses curriculum as presented until the April 2nd, 2020 board meeting.
Move.
Motion and second. Shelley again, and Dr. Patrick Fine. Welcome.
So Dr. Fine's going to introduce 2 courses tonight. He's got Personal Fitness and Wellness Rewrite and Driver's Ed Rewrite.
Good evening.
Neat.
I was with you last year, and last year I brought several of the high school physical education courses, and these 2 are the last of the courses that we have. And I think my clicker's not, oh, there it is. The courses that I'm bringing tonight are Personal Fitness and Wellness, which is our main physical education course. It's a half a credit, which represents that half a credit of the full credit that they need for graduation. The health that's in blue, we're in the middle of a review this year, and we'll be writing that and bringing that hopefully here to you next year. The driver's education course is an elective. The middle courses in the middle, that is the additional course that they would need to take to satisfy the graduation credit. I was lucky enough to be with 2 groups of teachers that are extremely passionate. The PFW teachers and the driver's education teachers are extremely passionate about what they do. They believe in their courses very strongly. And I believe what they have put together is very worthwhile for our students. Here's the writing teams that we had. We got to spend many days, full days together, and I'm very proud of the work that they put forth. These are the influences on the curriculum that we had. Last year's curriculum, we updated that with the new national and state standards. We reviewed all the trends and research that has coming out. There's more and more research about the benefits of exercise on mental health, improving stress and anxiety, decreasing the possibility of depression in our youth, the benefits on decreasing obesity, on the brain, on academics, all of those benefits that we have with exercise. We did a student survey last year, and we used that student survey to help us with the PFW class of writing some things in there that were of interest to the student, providing more choice opportunities, variety in the course. These are the national standards in a modified form, and these are our modules within each one of our courses that we have. This is for PFW. It would not be for the driver's education. I put a bunch of research and trends in there. More if any of you had any interest in looking into that. I see a lot of that through social media. I have a lot of that crosses across my desk. A lot of those are things related to the things that I touched on, mental health, and the benefits of exercise in a bunch of different areas. And these are the Icann statements that you can also find within our curriculum documents. I know there's a lot of information up there, but sometimes with our courses within physical education, you walk into a gym and you see movement, but you don't see a lot of the aspects that you see with the Icann statements. And here are some of the ones with driver's education. There wasn't any major shifts that we had with driver's education, but we did have discussions about how we could engage the students more within the class, how we might be able to change some of the teaching strategies to make it more to get them more involved, to make it more entertaining. If you look at all.
I had a question when you finished.
Okay. One thing I threw out at RLC was when you read through the Icann statements and everything that the teachers are covering in driver's education, it's really amazing the content that they're actually covering and how much they are giving those students within that semester course. Imagine trying to do that if you are the parent and you're deciding not to have your child take that, and you are out in the car and have to teach them every bit of that. So we feel like it's of value for the students to take driver's education.
Is there any reason
Pardon me?
some were bolded and some weren't?
Just to highlight some of the words and phrases in it, to be able to pull some of those things out a little bit easier.
Some that weren't bolded seem just as important. I just wondered.
No, they are. It's not necessarily the importance. It's just to highlight some of them, because I know normally I don't like to put that much information on a slide, and it's just to be able to pull some things off of it. It's the only reason why I did it like that. This is a study of driver's education. The only state that has any study out there on driver's education is Oregon, and it shows in this one particular slide the crashes over these certain number of years for those ages, and the students that were involved in those crashes that had driver's ed and the ones that did not have driver's ed. And I think it's, even though it's not conclusive, I think it is very telling of the importance of students taking a course like this, because they do spend a lot of time on decision making, making them think through many scenarios and situations that they might get into on the road and how to be able to handle that. Some of the next steps are, we do have proficiency scale work left to do in both of those classes and with the majority of our high school classes, and we have our health education curriculum that we're in the middle of right now. So we will be making some major shifts with our health education curriculum. I'd be happy to entertain any questions.
How many students take driver's ed at each of our high schools? Do you know?
I do not know offhand how many we have. I know it has drastically reduced the number that has been taken since we took the driving portion out.
That's been a long time ago.
It
right?
was a long time ago.
Yeah.
From what the teachers told me, it was one of the highest enrollment electives when they did have the driving portion.
Still do driving after school, though, don't they?
They had that option to take that through community education. It's not part of the course.
Oh, that's
but
through
they can
community
take that.
education, okay.
Yeah.
What is the big difference between the new driver's education, everything you've got, versus what it was before?
Well, the structure and how we laid it out throughout their curriculum, we had discussions with the entire writing process of some things that we're hoping to be able to implement in that new course. Those things are still left to be decided of whether we're going to be able to go in that direction. Some technology pieces that we thought it would be beneficial to be able to put into that course to make it a little bit more engaging for the students.
You may have said this, but it doesn't give you a break on your insurance anymore, does it? Driver's ed?
I believe some insurances
Well,
still
you
does.
think so? Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Can you go back to the first slide? On back. On back, back. There. You have personal fitness and wellness. That's pretty well aligned with some other courses, isn't it? How does it differ? How does that differ? It's a new course. How does it differ from what you're doing now?
Well, it's a course that was in place. This was just a rewrite.
A rewrite of it,
for
okay.
PFW. PFW is more a course that deals more with fitness, so they're going to engage in moderate to vigorous activity in that.
Is that a certain type of student takes that?
Every student has to take PFW.
Well, everybody has to take it.
Everybody has to take it. They generally will take it their freshman year.
Is that one still offered in the summertime?
It is offered in the summertime.
A lot of kids take it in the summer to get ahead?
There is quite a few that take it in the summer, and that number has been increasing too over the last couple of years. No, but it's really the students, their last time to be able to get in front of a teacher, somebody experienced, to teach them about fitness and how to prepare themselves for the rest of their life, how to develop a plan, how to set goals, how to work on all the different aspects of fitness, and to really step back and take a look, where am I right now, and what do I need to do to be able to put a plan together to help myself once I leave high school. And to think about situations like, if I decide to go into this career, how is that career going to affect my fitness versus going to another career? Some careers you're working 40, 50 hours a week. Some careers you're working 70, 80, 90 hours a week. And either one of those careers, hopefully you're finding the time to work fitness into it and exercise into it. So getting them to think about those things and make plans for how am I going to be doing that in the future.
You have a percentage of students that only take the required courses and don't go on?
I don't have a number for that. I did have, it was like 30% of the students that took courses beyond the required courses. Yeah, that's the number that I had last year, and I don't know if that number has changed.
Okay.
I can find out that answer, though.
That's okay, thanks, Pat.
We have a wonderful data department.
Yeah, thanks.
Yes.
Yeah.
I know that.
Yeah.
No, very good, thank you.
Good.
Thanks.
So the motion is to postpone the approval of the high school physical education courses curriculum till the next board meeting, April 2nd. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, that passes. Thank
Thanks,
you.
Pat.
Next, motion to postpone approval of the K through 5 social studies courses curriculum as presented until the April 2nd, 2020 board meeting.
Move.
Second.
Motion and a second. All right. Jordan and Dr. Willett again.
So we've been waiting a long time for this curriculum. I have to ask you this every time. What year was this last written?
2007, 2 presidents ago.
So we have not had a new social studies curriculum since then. We probably shouldn't say that in public. And we are really excited to bring this forward. The state has made some pretty significant shifts in where the content goes. So Jordan's going to walk you through that. He's assured me he's not going to go through all of these slides, but they're there for your information.
Well, I will go through them very quickly. But first off, thank you all for having me tonight. As Shelley alluded to, there have been some pretty big shifts from the state level, but then also nationally as well since 2007. So I'll go through some of those tonight and talk about some of the rationale that our teachers use with regards to those shifts to write in their new curriculum. I wanted to make sure that I recognize the great work that our teachers have done for about the last year and a half, 2 years. We've had a phenomenal team of kindergarten, first grade, second grade teachers, as well as third through fifth, and we've had some representation from ESOL and our librarians as well. I've been very fortunate to have a phenomenal team that I get to learn from and work with very often, and I like to tell people that I'm a recovering high school teacher. I taught high school for 12 years, so going into the elementary world to start off with in my first year and a half has been really exciting, and I love working with my team that I've been able to work with. I learn from them every time I get to meet with them and work with them. So going into our shifts to start, wanted to start with where DESE's been at in the last few years and kind of speak to why it has been as long as it has been with social studies. It hasn't just been in Rockwood that's been the case, that's been all over the state. In 2015, 2016, DESE rewrote standards and redid scope and sequence. And I'll speak to, the biggest shift was at third grade, fourth grade, and I'll speak to that here in a little bit. But for us, when those shifts were made, we knew that we were a couple of years away from social studies coming on the docket, so we wanted to wait until that next curriculum cycle to make some of those shifts. For us, it had been about 2007, and a lot of that comes from when Common Core came in, the emphasis was very heavy on math and ELA, and so the decision essentially for social studies was to come in after ELA went through revision so that we could work on ways to integrate ELA and social studies together, which a lot of people feel is a best practice, especially around the state. So that's some of the reason why, and I can certainly answer any questions that you have about why it's been as long as it has for K-5 social studies. For secondary, we just redid and reworked social studies in 2015, 2016. So now doing this at this point has allowed us to really look at some things from a vertical alignment perspective as far as K-5, and we've been able to do some really cool things with integrating ELA, but then also doing some vertical alignment for 612 as well. And I don't know, that kind of skipped through what I had just said. Okay, so rationale for social studies and why to hit social studies as hard as we would like to at the K-5 level. A lot of times it's hard to find the time. It's hard to find the time to embed social studies the way that you would like. So one of the things that we've been looking at is really doing a lot with embedding social studies with ELA, with STEM. Been very fortunate to work with our district technology specialist for K-5 and with Stephanie Steffen, our ELA coordinator, our wonderful ELA coordinator, and our coaches to create some very meaningful experiences with regards to embedding social studies into ELA time, into reading time and writing time, and getting social studies activities into STEM rooms. A couple of our teachers at Kellison recently did a really cool activity in one of our STEM rooms with regards to Black History Month. So they were able to leverage some really, really cool and exciting things that, in the past we wouldn't necessarily have been able to, and we're really trying to use those resources very well that we have at our fingertips. When the writing team started, they actually started about 3 months before I started in my position. They had just started their process. So when I started, they had already created their mission, vision, and values, and they had started work with aligning standards. But I was very fortunate to find that when I did my transition into the role, that a lot of the mission, vision, and values of what they aligned and what they wanted to align with regards to their new curriculum were things that were very much in lockstep with my beliefs as an educator. So they looked at creating a curriculum that prepares and encourages students to be critical thinkers and informed and active citizens, but then also at the same time, for some reason this isn't clicking through. There we go. They really looked at the vision and values of 3 specific things. Deb, would you be able to click through? This is a little slow. There you go. Thank you. So first looking at one of the national standards are ingrained around what's called the C3 framework, which I'll come back to here in a little bit, but C3 stands for college, career, and civic life. And those are the new national social studies standards that were written in 2013. And so our elementary team wanted to really hone in on and create a curriculum based around those new standards. And so they looked at creating that environment for students. And then having kids involved in an active and engaged democratic society. I think right now it's no secret that we're at a bit of a crossroads with regards to the amount of information that's out there. IBM just put out a study saying the amount of knowledge, this is true, the amount of knowledge in the world doubles every 11 to 12 hours now. But they don't indicate whether or not that knowledge is good knowledge or potentially problematic knowledge. So I think one of the things that our teachers really honed in on was that, yes, content's always going to be important with social studies, but one of the things we really wanted our kids to be able to navigate was, credible information and how to disseminate that credible information and what's in front of them. So that was something that they really honed in on as well. And then the bedrock of our curriculum is inquiry-based learning, which I'll come back to here in a little bit. So setting up students for a life of inquiry, having kids want to learn more about what they're learning about and asking questions to help guide their further research and putting them in a position where they can do that research later on and focusing on those skills that are very important. And again, going from looking at our conceptual shifts, going from a breadth of knowledge on a topic to depth in that topic, transfer of creation, knowledge, and new information. Going from a situation where teachers are disseminators of content to facilitators of investigation, looking at communicating conclusions, taking informed action in society, teaching kids the importance of wanting to be engaged in the democratic process down the road, which is something that our 612 teachers have really honed in and done a really good job on as well. Going from predominantly textbook-based instruction to really honing in and looking at literacy skills, and then I'll come back to that here in a little bit. And then the 4th shift, and I spoke to this earlier, was looking at a program that allowed us to really integrate with ELA very well. Looking at integration with math and STEM activities, and finding time in the day to integrate social studies seamlessly into all walks of the day and not necessarily have that in a silo. If teachers are finding time to be difficult with regards to finding that social studies specific time. Okay, so going forward, the big shift for us from a national scale was the introduction of the C3 framework in 2013. So the C3 framework are the new national social studies standards. So as you navigate the curriculum documents, you may find that within the unit documents, the standards are actually geared more towards the C3 framework, which are traditionally process-based. And the reason for that for a lot of our teachers was to find ways to, they wanted to find ways to integrate the content from the Missouri Learning Standards, which there are documents that show how the Missouri Learning Standards connect to the C3 framework, but also making sure that the process and the skills-based instruction that they want to really put out there is really at the forefront with regards to our curriculum. So the C3 framework is all based around 4 dimensions. Developing inquiry-based learning activities. The content dimensions are based around civics, economics, geography, and history. So you'll notice that K2, the units are in lockstep with that. There are 4 units per year, and all of them linked to the C3 framework. And then third dimension would be really navigation of sources. And the fourth would be communicating conclusions and taking informed action. So these are our national standards. So what nationally has been outlined for our kids, you can really tell at the forefront is content's there with regards to civics, economics, geography, and history, but going further into higher levels of DOK, it's really looking at gathering and evaluating sources, making sure that the information the kids put together is real and credible and valid and good information, and then developing claims and then using those claims to take informed action in society, taking that knowledge that they learn and doing something with it once they leave our classes. So looking at grade level shifts, the grade level shifts for kindergarten and first grade are fairly minimal. Actually, K2 are really pretty minimal from a state perspective. So for kindergarten, there's map and globe skills, analysis of national symbols and their importance. For first grade, you're looking at economic concepts, evaluation of sources, and then democratic process in the community, so it's really community-based. And then in second grade, you have some small shifts from the first curriculum. Deb, would you be, thank you. So in the old curriculum, you had principles of democracy, geographic concepts, basic economic concepts, and then the new curriculum, you have a lot of that, but then more emphasis on inquiry-based learning and putting kids in a position to ask questions and to want to ask questions about the world around them. The big shift is 3.5. So the old curriculum was United States government fairly dominant for third grade. The new curriculum is taking what was traditionally taught in fourth grade over the last handful of years and bumping it down to third. And there's some rationale that I could speak to for that, and that'll come up here in a second. So Deb, if you go to the next one. This slide was provided to me by our wonderful director of social studies at DESE, Dixie Groupie. And she was able to provide me with this rationale so that I would be able to communicate it out, because I think it's important that we understand why these shifts are being made at the state level and now why we're making them. The reason why Missouri history went to third grade from fourth grade traditionally was the MMAT test in the 80s. We don't have that anymore. So the thought was, when they came together in 2015, 2016, is would bumping Missouri down to third grade allow for deeper level understanding of U.S. history at fourth and fifth grade, which they believe they've been able to accomplish. And our team has been able, they found that to be accurate as they've gone through the writing process. So that's the reason why we're asking teachers to make that shift, which I get a lot of questions about it from teachers, but I think now, having gone through it through the pilot program, they really kind of understand and see the shift and are welcoming of that. And a lot of the resources the state pushes out now have scaffolded skills for third grade for Missouri. So a lot of those, like field trips to Jefferson City, those kind of learning experiences are being scaffolded down to third grade now as a result of that. And then for fourth grade, the old curriculum was Missouri history, so now it's going to be the United States history up to 1799, so pre-colonization up to 1799, and then an added emphasis on inquiry-based learning as well. And then fifth grade will now be from, it used to be up to 1799, and the new shift is 1800 to 2000. So as you can see, it will allow fifth grade to get into more modern and contemporary aspects of United States history as well by making that shift. So some last minute things to kind of wrap up before I start to take questions. For teacher trainings coming up, in the past we've had, we were lucky enough to have Dr. Kathy Swan from the University of Kentucky come in and do some trainings with teachers with regards to the shift of inquiry-based learning, and she had teachers design sample inquiry activities, 4 to 5 day activities that we'll be able to push out through the unit documents, so teachers won't have to go through the trouble of making those inquiry documents and those activities. They'll be able to go to the unit documents and access those right away and kind of go from there. We also have DBQ project coming in. We've partnered with them for 4th and 5th grade, so we're excited about that because that's a program that's used at our 6-12 levels, and any AP student at the high school level writes DBQs on national assessments. So, we're hoping that will allow for some, pretty critical K-12 alignment to go on. And then we're looking at C3 framework and inquiry-based learning trainings for the summer and resource trainings as we adopt our resources. And then speaking to that really quickly, we're very close to that point as far as adopting resources. So, those are still to be determined. And as far as proficiency scales, one thing on the unit documents you may notice is that if you click on the proficiency scale documents, they aren't quite embedded yet. We still have some proficiency scale work to be able to do. We just looked at our essential course outcomes and tried to tighten those up a little bit, but we're very, very close on that process too. And so those proficiency scales are very close to the process of being completed.
We're trying to be mindful that elementary report card could get really long
Yes.
if we aren't a little bit more succinct.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing that we should probably mention is that Jordan and our library lead, Margaret Sullivan, are working on media literacy. We know that next year is a election year, and it's going to be really important that we push some of that stuff out to teachers and make that available to them. So they are working on that as we speak.
Yeah, and we're looking at all options for that. We're looking at a Canvas course the teachers would be able to navigate. We're looking at doing professional development, both at the summer conference that's coming up and then through curriculum strands next year. We understand that there's a big need for that, not just at the elementary levels, but at all levels, as far as just, giving teachers resources to be able to disseminate the media with their students, I think is statewide, it's a pressing and crucial need right now.
Gordon, I have a couple questions and comments. Is all this going to be phased in at once next year? You're going to just shift from the left box to the right box?
Yeah, so as far as the content shifts, we're asking teachers to make those shifts next year. And so with that, there's going to be trainings on not just, resource trainings that are offered, but then also, support that I'll offer by going into buildings to do some content work as well with them.
The third graders then, going into the fourth grade, do they lose something?
So one thing that we're looking at is we're going to be mindful of the fact that there will be next year will be the third graders this year will be the ones that will have to support and supplement when they get into 4th and 5th grade with regards to Missouri activities. So we're also designing some Missouri activities that teachers would be able to do to supplement that Missouri history that, for that 1 year that they'll, have a little bit of shortage on.
This is really a tremendous shift from what it was in 2007 or up to now. I empathize with you guys because no matter what you do, you're going to have some pundits out there that are going to say, well, they're first graders, they don't know their 50 states, they can't point a state out. Second graders can't identify this country because that's the way they were taught. And us older folks, that's the way we were taught initially. And so no matter what you put out there, you're going to have some people you're not going to convince, even parents. How are you going to deal with that?
I think one of the things that, whenever I've presented on this over the last, year and a half or so with buildings and with teachers, they've been very supportive about the fact that those shifts are, very real and very big. But I think if you go back to just the way that information is disseminated right now, the amount of information that's out there, I think the community and teachers that I've worked with and spoken to have been really, really supportive of the fact that it's imperative that a shift does need to be made because the amount of information that's out there and readily available at fingertips now, as opposed to even 2007, has been a game changer. I think there will still be a lot of supplementary activities and resources that teachers will be able to use to do some of those traditional, I like to call them non-negotiable activities and skills, and content. But at the same time, understanding that, when we have kids look at state capitals, yes, it's important that, they have an understanding of where all the state capitals are, but what power is there with kids looking at, the importance of why state capitals exist in the first place and why were those specific locations chosen, and what does that say about what we prioritize as a people, in a society, in a state, in a country. There's a lot of power to that.
Why do you need to memorize the state capitals when you can look it up by the time you can say all of them? What, is this going to align with the middle school and the high school curriculums for social studies?
So it will. What we're finding is at the middle school level, middle school, especially 6th and 7th grade, tend to be more geared at the beginning towards world history. So as you notice, there's not a ton of world history at the K-5 levels, and that was specifically designed by DESE, because they knew that middle school gets to be pretty heavy into world history, and then in high school you get some of that obviously with world history and then contemporary issues and those kind of courses. So the alignment is absolutely there. They won't come back to U.S. history until 8th, 9th grade, so they'll be able to build on that later, but there is a little bit of a break in 6, 7 with regards to world history. But a lot of the things that our teachers are designing are activities and resources that, even though the focus is U.S. history at 3rd through 5th and Missouri history, that our teachers do a really, really great job of looking at trends around the world and what other countries are doing with regards to, education and content, and they do a really good job of making sure that our students are very aware of the world around them.
One last question. Is there testing for social studies on the map, for the map?
Not at the elementary level anymore, and actually not at the middle school level anymore.
It's strictly, was it geography at the high school?
At the high school, it's government.
Government, rather, okay.
Yeah, at high school, it's the government EOC. And then government also has the Missouri and U.S. Constitution tests embedded into it, and then U.S. history has the civics exam. And those 3 tests are all mandated by state legislation.
So how are you going to gauge down the road the success of this shift?
So I think one of the things that was something that we honed in on pretty quickly, that we don't have those built-in assessments for elementary. So one of the things that we've really tried to do a lot of work on with our teachers in writing times is looking at high-quality assessments that could be transferable across our buildings, so that we could have some measure of accountability with regards to assessment and whether or not our kids are really benefiting from those shifts that were able to be made.
Last question, one more. Do we have most of the materials to start this, or is there going to be quite an outlay of funds to purchase the materials to implement this?
We're forecasting that all of the resources will be in buildings by the time of August. By when school starts in August, we will have all of these resources in house.
We'll need to purchase.
Complete overhaul, because we've got really old resources.
Yeah, so we'll have to purchase quite a few.
Mm-hmm. And we'll have trainings on those as resources come in. Summer trainings in the fall. Now that we're going to full day PD, we'll have the benefit of having some really meaningful time to dig into those resources. And our vendors that we've worked with and our companies that we've looked at have given us assurances that they're going to bend over backwards to make sure that our teachers are supported.
It's really great. How long did it take you to develop this?
About 1.5
years. That's actually really quick for all these changes.
Yeah, and that speaks to, again, the quality of the team that I've been able to work with. I can't say enough great things about that team.
Tammy, you can ask a question now. If I'd known you were going to ask one, I would have asked 2 or 3, then come back.
No, I actually have several questions. One is, I noticed in your modules you have time frames. So is there an overall scope and sequence that's been developed so teachers can understand and see the relationship?
And so at the beginning, so all of them, like Brian showed his year-at-a-glance document, when you pull up the year-at-a-glance document, you'll be able to see the course of the year, and as far as when what units should fall first, and
they're moving through geography to history to and different
and those
economics.
are outlined on the year-at-a-glance
okay
document. Yes.
So that was one question. The second question, now you made me forget what it was. In looking at the resources, will a number of those be electronic so that they can be updated more quickly with the, as you said, the change so quickly in history and critical literacy? I would hate to be tied to textbooks that are going to be outdated in 3 years. So can you speak to that?
Yes, absolutely. So one of the things that I'm lucky enough to, in my role, to be tied into a lot of different organizations throughout the state, and one of the organizations I'm lumped in with is the Missouri Council for Social Studies. I'm lucky enough to be a member of the board of directors for that organization, and we do work with teachers all over the state, and that puts me in a unique position to have some contacts with folks that are doing some really great things. And Liberty Public Schools in Kansas City have started an open-ended resources program where a lot of their curriculum is done very open-ended and open sourced through you go into the curriculum documents online and they're getting all your resources from there. And so one of the things we wanted to do is a hybrid system where certainly we wanted to have new resources, new hard resources in classes for teachers, but then also if teachers were to go to their unit documents for, let's say you're on the economics unit for second grade and you wanted activities that you could use for that digitally, then eventually once everything's built out, then you could go to the unit sources at the bottom and there will be a long list of resources digitally that you'll be able to click on and go to from your unit documents. Everything will be there: proficiency scales, online resources, links to the digital versions of your new resources that you have. We try to be, when we select resources, very mindful of the fact that so many great things out there are digital now, and we wanted to make sure that we put teachers in a position to do that. And we're also being mindful of the fact that you want to vet a lot of those resources.
That was my next question.
Yes. So we're
just because it's out there doesn't mean
yes.
that it's something we want
so,
our teachers to use.
And that's something that we do a lot of work with, pulling those resources in. And so something that I'm always very cognizant of when we have teachers go through those resources is we have protocols in place to look at the validity of the resources, how high quality they are. We had checklists and forms that we went through to make sure that our resources that pitched to us were valid and credible. So we use a lot of those same forms to make sure that our online resources that we're going to push out to teachers in an open source manner were also valid and credible. And the teachers do things like things a lot of times when you're in the classroom and you have a really cool online tech resource, you don't necessarily think a lot of times of the terms of a service agreement, and we want to make sure that teachers are mindful that I'm saying this for Deb because I know she'll appreciate it. You want to make sure that our teachers are in a position where they know exactly what to look for and what they would be serving up as far as student information, if they have students go through those resources. So we want to be very mindful of that too.
Last question, when going through the modules again, are we driving teachers to primary sources in addition to some of the digital technology?
Yeah, and for a few reasons. I think first, navigating primary sources, political cartoons can be very difficult for a lot of students to navigate, but looking at like high skill practices like inference when you're looking at primary sources and those documents can be difficult. And I think the earlier that you start that process with kids, the better it's going to be for kids to be in position to do really well with that in middle school and high school. And with AP exams, DBQs are such a big part of AP exams in our content areas, and that's one of the big things that 6-12 teachers told me when we started this process is, the earlier that kids could start looking at sources, the better it will be for them from a development perspective, but then it'll also help support 6-12 programs as well.
Tammy, can I ask a question now?
No, it's my turn.
I don't have any more. I'm done.
I don't have a question. I have some comments. So I cannot think of a more exciting time to be a teacher and be able to do social studies because of all the resources, primary resources, and just what is out there. And with that being said, this will make you feel good. I was in a kindergarten class last Friday, and the teacher had a world map on one of the desks, and the kids were around it in the station format, and I'll be darned, those kids could recognize every major country in the world, Europe and France, and it was amazing. It was just from exposure, right? Just from being there on the table and just going over it over again a number of times. So it was just pretty amazing. So thank you for the work that you're doing.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
It's crucial in our world today.
It's very crucial, and I agree. There was no more exciting time to be
right.
a social studies teacher than right now. I think a lot of teachers and folks in my role, sometimes we talk about there's some aversion to it at times. It would be understandable for there to be some aversion just because there is so much out there, and there's some difficulties with regards to navigating everything right now. But I look at that as an opportunity, and I know a lot of our teachers are looking at this as an opportunity as well, and they're just chomping at the bit for more support on this and to do social studies more and have their kids do social studies more. So thank you very much.
I'm sure I think the peer-to-peer coaching will be so valuable at the elementary level to be able to have people share their ideas and work together to develop their approach and their learning.
Absolutely.
Another major piece is that you're partnering with ELA and integrating those. I was talking about inference. Partners can do it. You just need to just in working smarter as collaborative teachers is really the way to go.
And a lot of times I think what we're finding, and Stephanie would also say this as well if she was here, that a lot of times that kids, when they're going through reading practices, a lot of times kids benefit from having a why to read. And I think social studies gives kids that why to read and that ability to be engaged with what they're reading about and use those practices to navigate high quality historical fiction texts and nonfiction texts that can help them learn more about the world around them. So I think there's just a natural fit.
It's also a great opportunity to bring the home situation to have that school-home partnership as well.
That's something that we're looking at a lot with, we've looked to embed, SEL resources, our second steps resources that are already in buildings. We're looking at what units could those fit into. So, that's something that we're also very mindful of as well, and we're pushing those out through our unit documents as well.
Thank you for the work you're doing.
Thank you very much.
That's hard work.
Yeah, thank you.
Very good. Thank you. So the motion is to postpone approval of the K through 5 social studies courses curriculum until the next board meeting of April 2nd. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, that passes. Thank you.
Thank you all very much. Appreciate it.
Goodbye, Shelley. I'll miss you. Next, we need a motion to approve the bond issue purchases and related contracts, $7,500 to $150,000 as submitted.
Move.
Motion and second. Hello, Chris Friend.
Good evening. How is everybody?
Good. How are you?
All right. The first item we have up for approval tonight is for Horner and Schifrin. They're a civil engineering firm. Some may not realize that we actually have 3 facilities in the district that are not hooked up to MSD sewer for sanitary. So those locations are Lasalle, Rockwood Valley, and Wildwood Middle School. Recently, the EPA has tightened up some regulations on these facilities. Obviously, our facilities are a little older, so we know we're going to have to make some improvements to stay compliant. So we are bringing Horner and Schifrin on to do a baseline assessment of our wastewater treatment plants and give us recommendations on what we need to do in the future, construction-wise, to be compliant.
All 3 of those is going to be pretty extensive after you get this done to get that done.
It just depends. We don't expect it to be a cookie cutter remedy for all 3 locations. The cost is going to vary and the scope of work is going to vary on each one.
All right, so that motion is to approve the bond issue purchases and contracts, $7,500 to $150,000. All those in favor say aye.
Wait, there's some more on that one. That's all in a group.
Where?
There's,
Wait. Oh, yeah, I saw Deb, but, oh, I'm sorry. I didn't click on the bottom one. It does say Deb. Sorry, Deb.
It's okay.
2 more. Thank you, everyone, for catching that. Sorry. Rose Award winner.
So with the inception of the Category 2 program in 2015, we've been coming to the board about this time of year to ask for approval for projects for the next E-rate cycle. And so this year we have several projects that we're asking you to approve. And the first one here is for eligible switches and uninterruptible power supplies. Those are, the switches keep our network going, and they will be used to upgrade, increase capacity, or replace out of warranty switches. The UPSs are what keep things running in the event of a minor power outage and allow us to get a generator in place in the event we have an extended power outage. So, you want to go down now?
What's an E-rate category?
So E-rate Category 2 is a program that the Universal Service Acceptance Corporation and the FCC implemented in 2015. It's a way that schools are able to utilize funding dedicated specifically to supplies and services that support internet connectivity. Okay. So this one is for wireless access points that will be used specifically at Rockwood South Middle School and Eureka High School. With the construction at Eureka High School, we have to add, and Rockwood South, it's time to upgrade their services. Yeah. So. This one is for data wiring or structured data cabling at Lasalle Springs Middle School, and we separated the data wiring projects out because it makes it much cleaner as we're filing the paperwork for E-rate when the data wiring is separate. So Netcom is the choice for this one and actually ended up for all of the projects. This one is for Rockwood Summit High School. Rockwood Summit in their original building still has the original cabling, and because of their size and what they're doing, we needed to upgrade their internal cabling. And then this one is for Rockwood Valley Middle School, and again, they have had, with the exception of a few places, have the original data cabling, and it is more than 25 years old. So it's time to upgrade. Okay.
Everybody good?
These
Is
are all,
that it now?
We do
Are we
these
good?
upgrades.
these are all through bonding. I'm sorry.
When we do these upgrades, it doesn't put anybody out of service for them, right?
I'm sorry.
When you do the upgrades, it doesn't put anybody out of service for any period of time?
No,
Okay.
we, if the data wiring is done during the school year, it's done in the evenings or over breaks. Typically, we try to do it breaks only. And that's done in sections. The switch replacement is always done off hours, so it's not impacting anyone. And the wireless access points, that's just an unplug, plug in, and they're ready to go. And it's minimal. And they do them also evenings, weekends, mornings.
These are all covered by the last bond issue.
Yes, these are all part of the infrastructure piece of the bond issue that we allocate to that.
Were yours too, Chris?
Yes,
Okay.
The 2017 bond.
correct.
Yes.
Okay, now I'm going to say this. Motion to approve the bond issue purchases and related contracts, 7,500 to 150,000. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, that passes. And the last one, motion to approve the bond issue purchases and related contracts over $150,000 from Wright Construction Services, Inc. for construction services for the Phase 2 STEM renovation project at Marquette High School.
We'll move.
Motion and a second. Chris?
Right. So this item is actually pretty exciting for us. As we know, in Bond Issue 17, we made a pretty significant push towards improving our STEM facilities at all 4 high schools. Eureka High School is currently, wrapping up as we head towards the summer. And then this is the big last piece that we had of those improvements. A few summers ago, it's hard to believe it's been 3 summers, but Phase 1 took place at Marquette, where we built an addition on the west side of that campus. We knew when we evaluated Marquette High School with the enrollment projections and where they were at, we had to create some square footage in order to come back and do the improvements that were really needed in that facility. So this is the second phase of that. This is all interior renovation to existing space. So this does not include a building addition. That portion of the project is already done. This is significant renovations to the existing building. This project will take place over the next 2 summers with a hard stop for the school year. So construction activities will not continue throughout the school year. That's what made this project a little tough as we were going through the design phase and the phasing study as to how we were going to accomplish this, knowing that we couldn't do a straight through construction, progress plan. So it will be a hard stop after the summer of 21, and we'll finish up summer 2020, and then finish up the summer of 21. Couple of people in the audience that I want to recognize. We do have the architect. Dickinson Hussman Architects has been involved with all of our STEM improvements that we've made at the high school level in bond issues 15 and 17. Don Hussman in the front here, his firm has done an absolutely fabulous job on designing these facilities. They are not easy facilities to design, especially when you're dealing with existing space, because you have some restrictions on lab sizes, things like that, and they're not easy to design. And I think they've done an incredible job, and really working through the budget. One of the exciting things about this project is when we started the design process for this, and we were projecting what the cost of this project might be, we were estimating it could be upwards of $9 million. And we have actually, when we opened bids for this project, we were ecstatic, obviously, with the number that came back. And we are very happy because we actually included a couple alternates that added some scope to some areas that were adjacent to this space that really needed to be renovated as well. And we were able to include that all in the project scope that we're going to perform the next 2 summers. So they did a great job designing it. The other person I want to recognize is Tom Wright. Wright Construction is the company that we're going to be working with on this project. Tom is a resident of the district. He and his company did the renovation at Rockwood Summit High School a couple summers ago, 2 or 3 summers ago, and did a fabulous job. That was a really seamless project. They did a great job, and we're excited to have them on for this project.
So when you get the design of everything, I'm just kind of curious to see where exactly, can you give us a little synopsis of where you're talking, how replacing classrooms, is this 3rd floor or what?
Yeah, so the thing about these STEM lab renovations is you actually touch, even though your renovations to the classroom space may be occurring on the 2nd and 3rd floors, you're touching all 3 floors because they're so heavy in plumbing and electrical renovations. There's acid waste tanks that have to be placed throughout the campus to take on all of this chemical waste that these new labs will be providing. So really the core of where this is at is the 2nd and 3rd floors of the curriculum wing. If you're familiar with where the principal's office is, that is basically in the heart of where we're going to be doing this renovation. And the areas that are really going to look significantly different are the 2nd and 3rd floors. Like I said, the 1st floor will have some renovation, but that's going to be the unexciting stuff like plumbing and electrical things. The real eye-opener is going to be the 2nd and 3rd floor.
Is that on the areas they added? Is that in the areas that they added 2 years ago?
No, so that section of the building will be untouched. We're basically working from the west, that west addition, to the east.
So from the principal's office south, that across the hallway south, facing
yes,
facing Kerrs Mill?
Yeah, basically that whole block.
Oh.
Yep.
Wow.
It's a significant renovation.
Yeah, 2nd and 3rd floor.
Yes.
When you say you're going to hard stop at the end of the summer, but it will be in a completed state that won't affect school for the coming year.
That is correct, yes.
If we could have done this continuously, would it have been a little bit cheaper? He said, okay, good. He's shaking his head no.
You may have seen a small cost savings, but really, I think we went through the painstaking process of really figuring out how to phase this. And if you talk to Mr. Hankins at Marquette, they've been involved in this discussion the whole time, and we actually, what do we go back and forth? Probably 3 or 4 different scenarios. We originally thought this might take us 3 summers. And that was not an attractive option. One, you don't have many contractors that are going to want to bid something out 3 years in advance. And obviously we didn't want to put the school through that much turmoil over 3 summers. So we really consolidated, looked at it, got creative, and came up with a plan that we think we can accomplish in 2 summers.
Those rooms you're talking about were originally just regular classrooms. Have they already been converted, Or that's what you're going to do, Mr. Wright?
That's correct. The labs, and if you're familiar with Rockwood Summit and Lafayette High School, and you've seen those labs, they're basically going to be identical to those large lab spaces. The only difference is we're changing, the input that we got back from the science department at Marquette was they would rather have loose tables in their lab areas than the kidney-shaped tables that we put in the original phase.
So we're turning those classrooms into classroom/labs?
Correct.
Oh, okay. Very good.
Classroom.
Yeah.
Oh, lab. All right, anything else? All right, so the motion is to approve the bond issue purchases over $150,000 for Wright Construction Services at Marquette High School. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, that passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next I need a motion to approve the administrative salaries with a 3% increase to the plan for the 2020-21 school year.
Moved.
Did you guys, okay, and I saw a motion and a second. Dr. Rebele.
Evening. So this is our annual request for increases to our administrative pay plan, and we're seeking a 3% increase to that plan.
This is what we did last year.
Correct.
Okay.
And it's within our balanced budget.
And within our balanced budget.
That would have been my question is do we have a dollar figure and what that would be, and it is within the balanced budget? I'm looking at Paul.
With a balanced budget, yep,
Okay.
correct.
What's the teacher's raise?
3.1.
Okay.
Very good. Anything else? Okay, so that motion is to approve the administrative salaries with 3% increase to the plan for 2021 school year. All those in favor say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? All right, that passes. Thank you. Towards the end, folks. Hang in there. Remember, we only have one meeting this month. Motion to approve the Missouri School Boards Association Conference proposal.
Moved.
Motion and a second. Tammy Romberg, you going to speak about this, please?
So all the board members have seen the proposal, and our intent was to submit a proposal to the MSBA State Conference. We've gone through an extensive process of hiring our new superintendent, and we've really taken it very seriously. We've done intensive study with MSBA, and with Lynn Mignette's guidance, have really come up with a very solid hiring process and evaluation process for our superintendent that we feel we should share with other districts around the state. And so we've put together a proposal and have gathered some input from the board members and want to proceed with submitting it by March 31st. Questions and thoughts?
For the fall?
It's for the fall.
Okay.
Be in Kansas City, September, I think it's 24th and 25th, I think.
Just a one-time presentation, or do
It
you
is.
know?
No, it's a lifetime commitment, no.
No, I mean, you're not going to present it, but one time.
It's one time.
Lifetime. Oh, jeez.
It's one time.
All right, any questions? I appreciate you doing that. I know
No,
the board
thank you,
appreciates
Tammy.
you doing that. So that motion is to approve that MSBA conference proposal. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, that passes. Next is the proposed agenda for the April 2nd, 2020 Board of Education meeting. By the way, I say 2020 so many times in one meeting. It's hard to say 2020.
20.
Are you forgetting it right?
And then it was February 20th, 2020. All right, the agenda. Some more curriculum on there, I believe.
No new curriculum,
Huh?
just
I
second
thought I saw
reading.
Oh, yeah. All right. Second reading, second reading. All right. Any questions on the agenda?
It's not when the new board members are,
No.
that's
'cause
afterwards.
The
They haven't had
election's
the election
not
yet,
until
then
the
have it.
7th, yes.
Okay.
Okay, you're good with that?
Huh?
And then future agenda presentations and events to attend. March 10th is the Lafayette High School Academic Pep Assembly. I'm assuming
I am going to be there.
some people are going to that.
I'll be there, yeah.
All right, and spring break, March 13th to the 22nd. One more week. And then Saturday, March 28th is the Relay for Life Run and Olympics event at Marquette High School, 8 a.m. to noon. Any other?
And just to clarify, that's not the actual relay. That's kind
No,
of like
that's the
an event
5K
that they
run.
kind of do, yes.
Yes.
What are the board
Some
meetings in
really
April?
fun activities for kids.
When are
It's
the
gonna be
board
a lot
meetings
of
in
fun-
April?
lot of fun
April
activities.
2nd?
2nd and 16th?
and 16th, correct? Okay.
Okay.
Anything else?
No, not that day. I'll
Janet,
get a
you
haircut.
good?
Yes.
Rose Award winner, you
Yes,
good?
I'm good.
Okay. All right, let's adjourn the meeting.